Hey, Linda, I'm so glad we're here together today.
Hi, Caitlin. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I absolutely love the work that you do. And I think the fact that you help women embrace money in this new empowered way, and specifically women who are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, having their own business, who have that fluctuating income, because that can just wreak havoc on our mindsets and our nervous systems. And so I am so glad that we're here to talk about. I love this topic that you brought up is how to change your money mindset in 5 steps. So, first off, before we dive into that, give us just a little context about what brought you here to be this amazing expert serving women in this way.
Sure. It all comes from my story, right? So my story was I grew up in a middle class household, lower middle class, I should say. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't talk about money, but I kind of knew that we lived paycheck to paycheck and that my friends were doing things that I wasn't doing or had things that I didn't have. Well, I had a great childhood. I just kind of like had this underlying knowledge that there was a lack, right? That I didn't have the same thing. But then as I got older, I lived the same lifestyle in the fact that I would earn money and then I would spend the money and I would earn enough money to spend what I needed to spend, but I never saved. There was no like plan. It was just living paycheck to paycheck, and I was fine with that. I didn't realize that there was anything wrong with that because that's what I had grew up with. And then as I got older and I realized that there was such a thing as a money mindset. Well, actually, I didn't even realize that there was when I made my changes. I just realized that I needed to change something and I didn't know what that was. So, in effect, I went through this whole big growth phase, and part of that was changing my money mindset, which is why now I try to help women in changing their money mindset because I did it, but I did it the hard way and like not even knowing what I was doing. So now I have a structured program that they can go through, and with help from a mentor like myself, they can get through it and understand what those things are that are holding them back.
That's amazing. Yeah, I always love, and this is one of the reasons why I love working with women like yourself, is that you just come from a place of heart-centered service. It's like I've been through this. This was a struggle for me. I overcame it, and then you want to translate that into support and help for others. I just think that's such a beautiful mission on this planet. And I'm so excited for our conversation today. And so, since we have 5 steps that we're moving through, let's dive into it and walk us through step number one. What is the first thing we need to do if we want to begin to shift and change our money mindset from one of lack and struggle to one of abundance and flow and really just like a healthy relationship with money?
Yeah. So the very first thing that you need to do is let go of your negative money stories. So
Mm.
this might take a little bit of introspection to figure out what those negative stories are that you're telling yourself. But listen to your words that you're actually saying to yourself and to other people, and also the little voice inside your head that's saying things to you. So those negative stories might be that I'm really bad with money, or I'll never earn that much, or I don't think I'm worth that, or whatever that is. Or those are internal scripts. There's also external scripts, which are you know, um, like rich people are greedy, which is an internal script where you're excusing yourself for not being rich because you're saying I'm not greedy. So listening to those internal voices and the things that you say to other people will help you realize what those negative things are that you're saying.
That's such a powerful first step. Anytime we can bring awareness to something, we're starting to detach from being that thing, right? If you're identifying as someone who I'm bad with money and I always struggle and I never have enough, and you start to recognize, oh, that's not me. That's just the things I'm saying about me. That's just the story I'm replaying. It breathes a little space in there. And so I totally get that. And I've done that many times in my own existence of like, why do I keep saying that? Or why do I keep thinking that? And you begin to detach from those beliefs. So that's a really powerful first step. So from there, as we work to recognize and see these limiting stories and let them go, what's the next step that we would need to move into?
The next step is getting organized. So it's really just paying attention to your money and where it's going and where it's coming from and what its purpose is. So just getting organized, understanding the accounts that you have, the flows that are coming in and out of them, what the purpose for those accounts are. If you have a savings account, what's its purpose? If you have a retirement account, what's its purpose? And making sure that you are just really organized and understand what you have so that you have like a baseline of where to start.
That makes a lot of sense, because I think when we don't have a healthy relationship with something, or when we view something as negative, we don't want to look at it, right? It's like, oh, I'll just ignore that. I don't need to think about it. If I don't look at it, it's not, an issue. And what I found is that although we think that's helpful and, protecting us, it actually feels so much better, and it's so cleansing to just look at the thing head on, for better or worse, see what's actually happening so you know where you're starting from. And often it's not as scary and not as bad and not as painful as you're anticipating it. Like, you build all of that up by not looking at it. And when you finally just engage with it, it's not as bad as you were thinking. At least that's been my experience. And I've had those moments, early on in my business where I'm like, oh, I don't want to look at the bank account. I don't want to think about these things. And then when you actually just take a moment and see it, you're like, oh, okay, I can handle this. I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah. And thinking about the idea that you're not paying attention to it, our attention and positivity goes where we pay attention, right? So if we're not paying attention to our money, then what are we telling ourselves about money? That it's not important or that it's scary. And that's a story you're telling yourself right there. Money's scary, it's not important, or I'll figure it out someday. Those are also negative stories from the step one that we want to get rid of, right? So getting organized can also help with that. But yeah, just figuring out what you have and what it means, and then paying attention to it regularly. And I don't mean like if you're not looking at like stocks every day or something like that. I'm just saying know where your money's coming and going and what the purpose of each account is.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what's the third step, number 3 of 5, as we are looking to improve and reset our money mindset?
Right. So once you understand your flows of money, where it's coming from and where it's going, is when you want to start to make small adjustments. So I don't want to use the word budgeting because people take that as a very negative word. So I always use cash flow. And when I say make small adjustments, I mean like have a big goal. Like say your big goal is I want to save such and such amount of dollars in the savings account, right? How do I start doing that? Where can I cut back or where can I pull the money from? And maybe just start taking it out and putting it into the savings account and then see how you do with the money that you have that's left over. Because a lot of times we just, whatever's in our account, we tend to think, oh, we can spend that. But making those smaller steps first, because if you start making too big of steps, then you end up like sabotaging yourself because it's really not like a doable task, right? And as far as like those small adjustments, they might be, making your coffee at home instead of buying your Starbucks, or it might be just, thinking twice before you make that Amazon purchase on you're having a bad day. Maybe add it to a wish list instead of just putting it in the cart and buying it. Instead of, going actually through with the whole purchase. Like give yourself a rule that you put it in your wish list or in your cart, and then you have to wait 24 hours before you buy it or whatever that is, but you're making small steps towards something that's going to get you where you want to go.
Mm. Yeah, and I think, the misconception is I feel like people think they always need to be making big leaps and bounds or no movement whatsoever. It's like, oh, I'm going to wait until I'm 100% ready, until I'm 100% confident, and then I'll make this big jump. And that's not how it works, right? That's not how it works with your money. That's not how it works in business. It's the people who win are the people who make those small, steady, consistent steps day after day after day, even on the days when it's challenging, even on the days when it's hard. But then you become this new person because you've instilled these habits of showing up in this way and doing these things time and time again. And I think that's something that I see so often in the world that I'm in, is that people say, oh, well, I'm going to wait on this and I'll start this business in 3 months, in 6 months, next year. And because they think they're going to be more ready or more prepared or be in a different place. But the truth is, without making those small little adjustments, by going outside of their comfort zone and doing these new things, nothing's going to look different. If anything, they're probably going to just be more frustrated and more stuck because they've waited additional time. So I absolutely love this step of these little sustainable, manageable tweaks and changes that move them towards their goal. I actually, a few years ago, before my business is at the level that it is, I had very little savings. I had very little in investments, thinking about retirement. That was just like, I don't even want to think about this, right? I'm just like living day to day, month to month. And what I set up was one of the online investment account, Acorns, and I just had $11.11 moved from my bank account into it every Friday. It was like an amount that it was so small for me. I mean, everyone has a different threshold, but it was so small that it felt so doable, so tolerable. And then now there's like almost $20,000 in this investment account because I started before I was ready, before it felt really good to release that money, but it's been compounding and growing. And I think that's just such a beautiful example of what you're talking about here. Just start before you're ready, start moving in this direction with these little tweaks and changes, and it can grow to something so big over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to be in the fitness field, and I compare it to someone who says, I need to lose weight before I'll go to the gym, before I start a workout program. I need to lose weight first because I'm too embarrassed to walk in. You know what? Everybody starts somewhere, and you just have to get started. So maybe if you're not ready to join the gym, maybe you just start, walking every day around your neighborhood or something, but you need to do something. And that's the point, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we've let go of negative stories. We've gotten ourselves organized. We've made these small adjustments. What's step number 4?
Setting realistic goals. So when you set a goal, your goal can be a number. It can also be a feeling. So when I talk about goals, I talk about it not being necessarily even a physical thing. It can be just the way you want to feel. The way most people want to feel when they retire is carefree. They want to feel like they have enough money to cover all of their living expenses and live the life that they want to live. And they really want to be carefree. It's not that they're like looking to save a certain number or anything. So when we talk about setting realistic goals, it needs to be something that you can believe, whether it's a feeling or a number or whatever it is. If you can't believe it, then you're going to sabotage yourself in getting there. So when I say realistic is for each person something different. So you set a bigger goal. It has to be something you can believe in. And then you do make those small adjustments along the way and celebrate smaller victories as you go. But the main thing that is on that, in that realistic goal, is that you believe you can achieve it.
That's so important, right? Because that dictates whether we can do it or not, right? Because if we want it, but we don't believe it, it's not in alignment. We're not going to be taking the right actions from the right place with the right mindset to actually make that happen. And I love that you also said that it can be a feeling, because that's what's behind every single goal, right? The reason we want $100,000 in the bank, or the reason we want to go on that vacation to the beach, the reason we want the things we want is because we think we'll feel a certain way when we have them or when we experience them. And so I love jumping right to, how do I want to feel? And then that also gives you permission to find that feeling along the way. You don't have to wait until you've got the $100,000 in the bank to feel carefree. You can do these little things along the way that conjure that feeling of carefreeness and, enjoyment. Hopefully a small thing every day, if not every week, on your way there, which I think is kind of the whole point, right? We're living this life. We've got to be living it, not waiting for a destination.
Yeah. The funny thing is about the realistic goals is that I find with myself and with my clients is that they'll set a goal in the beginning and they'll be like, okay, this is my goal. And then as we start moving through a program, the goal actually, before we even reach that goal, they raise the goal. They're like, I can do this, but I can do more. So they start believing in themselves more and they actually move it up before they even get there. So I think that's really interesting. I see that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, they're building that self-confidence, that self-belief. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have gotten to number 5, but before we land on the 5th one, I want to take a moment just for you to share a little bit more about the work you do with the women that you work with. I know you've developed a program that supports them. So tell us a little bit more about where people can find you, connect with you, what you're teaching, all of those beautiful things.
Sure. So what I have is a group program, and it's an online course. It's in a community. And it was originally set up to be an 8-week course, but now you can do it at your own pace, and you jump in and there's videos to watch, and then there's live coaching sessions along with it. And so it basically takes you through eight different types of money mindset assessments that were created by psychologists of over 40 years worth of experience. So it's based on psychometrics. So there is some data behind the course that I have. And then there's me actually helping you, coaching you, and helping you understand what it's all about. And you can find me on mindsetandmoney.com. And I actually have a special offer for podcast listeners. So if you just put in a /POD for that, there's a freebie download, a little money mindset quiz that's free, and then a special offer for my program.
Amazing. Yes, we'll link that up with the show and everywhere we're sharing it, so people can head on over to your website, grab that beautiful bundle that you've put together. And I'm imagining these steps are probably covered in the course in much more depth, moving people through all of these essential pieces to change their mindset.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. All right, so here we are at number 5. What is the 5th and final step for changing your money mindset for the better?
To take care of your relationship. This is an everlasting process. It doesn't happen overnight, and it will continually get better as long as you nurture it and take care of it, just as any other relationship would. So if you think about it as something that you're always working on, like a marriage or anything, any relationship, then keep taking care of it, keep improving it, keep doing all the other 4 steps, and you'll probably have to revisit those steps on a regular basis in order to keep going.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because once you move to a new level, there's going to be a new level after that. Just like you said, the people always keep shifting their goals, right? And I've experienced this in my own business. It's like, okay, well, the first thing was I just wanted to have my first sale, right? And then it's like, oh, well, can I make an extra $1,000 a month doing this? And then that becomes like, oh yeah, totally. And then it's like, well, how about 5,000? How about 10,000? And each of those new milestones, new goals stretch us outside of our comfort zone. And yes, we have to move through these steps again and again. So this is something, it would be great if it was one and done, and maybe for a few enlightened beings, it will be. But for most of us, this is something that, it's just a healthy flow to get into. And I love that the last step is take care of your relationship with money. And I forget who it was. I've, learned from so many different amazing teachers over the years, but one of them said, imagine money were a person, personify money. What would your relationship be like? Would they be someone that you're like, oh yeah, money's here, and you give them a big hug and you're like, want to spend the whole day together and have the best time? Or would you be like, oh my God, it's money, like I'm cowering and shying
Absolutely.
away and hiding from them? And that really gives us a lot of insight. And a lot of us, maybe we're not all one direction or the other, but it's kind of a mixed bag depending on the day. And how can we move more and more into that place where we're always welcoming and embracing money in a really positive way?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that the clients that I work with are mostly women solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, but I work with all women. But I think the reason why the solopreneurs and entrepreneurs are like gravitated towards the course is because they're already growth minded, and they're already building a business, and they want to know what the obstacles are that are in their way. So if someone wants to know what their obstacles are and their money mindset is, then I can help them with that.
Amazing. Yeah, Linda, thank you so much for your wisdom, for your time today. Any final thought that you'd love to leave people with, something that's helped you on your journey or something you'd love to share?
Yeah, just take that step, do the work, do that internal work. And that's what it's really all about. Any type of mindset change is just really getting inside of you and figuring out, what those stories are inside your head.
Absolutely. And money, like it or not, this is something we got to deal with every single day. So let's learn to like it, right?
Yes.
It's worth it, right? It's a lifelong relationship that we're building here. All right, Linda, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks so much for having me, Kaylin.